I'm not the father." That sentence repeated in my head like a funeral bell as the nurse handed me the DNA envelope. I hadn't even opened it yet. I didn't need to. I already knew. Ruby had been glowing for months, bragging about how our child would unite the family, how she couldn't wait to see my mother hold her first grandchild. The entire baby shower was her masterpiece. Peach pink balloons, champagne towers, curated playlists, dozens of smiles floating through the hall, all clinking glasses and complimenting her strength. No one saw what I saw. No one knew what I knew. I stood near the dessert table, half listening to Kyle tell some ridiculous story about how he predicted the baby would be a girl. He said it like it meant something, like he wasn't standing 3 feet from the man who had unknowingly been raising his unborn child. Ruby glanced at me from across the room. Her smile soft, too perfect, her hands resting on her stomach like a picture in a parenting magazine. Her eyes didn't flinch. She thought I was still blind. But Eva knew. She was the only one who had pulled me aside 2 weeks ago and whispered, "Peter, something doesn't add up." She didn't say it out of jealousy. Eva wasn't like that. She said it because she'd seen Ruby sneaking out of Kyle's condo one night in February, barefoot and wrapped in a trench coat. I didn't want to believe it. I told Eva she was paranoid, that Ruby would never. But something in her eyes, tired, sad, apologetic, got to me. And that's when the doubt cracked open. So I ran the test. Quietly. Ruby didn't suspect a thing. And now I held the results. A hand tapped the mic. My mom's voice boomed through the hall. "Let's give a round of applause to Peter and Ruby, and let's cut the cake." Everyone clapped. Ruby beamed. I took a step forward, slid the envelope from my pocket, and smiled back. She had no idea the next words out of my mouth would detonate everything. The applause was still fading when I tapped the champagne flute with my ring. It made a clear, delicate ting that cut through the laughter and chatter like a warning bell. Ruby turned to me with that same practiced expression, one she'd worn at every dinner party, every family brunch, every photo shoot she arranged to showcase our perfect life. Hated how beautiful she looked. Dressed in that warm, blush pink silk gown, hands cradling the bump like she was protecting something sacred. Her soft curls were pinned half up, delicate gold chains hanging at her ears. She looked like the perfect mother-to-be. I raised the glass and smiled. "Before we cut the cake," I said, voice steady, "I just want to say a few words." Everyone hushed. Ruby blinked and gave me a small nod, encouraging. "I met Ruby 4 years ago," I began.
She was late to a friend's engagement dinner and sat across from me, apologizing with a mouth full of chocolate cake. No filter, no pretense, just messy and real. I fell for that version of her. Some people chuckled politely. Ruby's
smile widened. She said she hated lies, said her father had cheated on her mother, and she'd sworn never to allow dishonesty into her life. That night, she told me, "If we're ever serious, lie once and I'm gone." The room grew a bit stiffer. Someone cleared their throat in the back. I looked right at her now. And that's when I knew I could trust her. Completely. So, I did. I trusted her with my home, my name, my future. And when she told me we were pregnant, I didn't hesitate. I built the nursery, changed my schedule, sold my motorcycle. I was all in. Ruby's smile was tight now. One hand dropped from her stomach, hanging by her side. I reached into my blazer pocket, pulled out the white envelope. But trust isn't something you beg for. It's something you earn. And sometimes, it's something you shatter. The room went silent. You could hear the creak of Kyle shifting uncomfortably on the couch behind me. "This," I said, holding up the envelope, "is a paternity test. I took it 2 weeks ago after someone I care about made me realize I needed the truth. I sent in samples, mine, Ruby's, and our unborn child's." Gasps rippled. My mom's hand shot up to cover her mouth. Someone's champagne glass slipped and shattered near the drinks table. I looked at Ruby, her eyes locked on the envelope now like it might burn her if it opened. She didn't say a word. The results came in yesterday, I continued. And it turns out, I'm not the father. Ruby's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her eyes welled. Not with guilt, not even remorse. Just shock that the mask had been peeled away in front of everyone. My hands shook slightly as I set the envelope down on the gift table beside the 3-tier cake she designed herself. I don't need you to say anything, I said quietly. I just need everyone here to know the truth. She whispered, Peter, please. But I cut her off. You lied to me, to my family. You invited them here to celebrate a child you knew wasn't mine. And worse, you let me prepare for a life that belonged to someone else. Her gaze darted toward Kyle. He was already on his feet, pale, palms up. Peter, man, I laughed once. Cold. Don't insult me, Kyle. You think I didn't notice the looks, the texts, the nights Ruby came home with perfume? That didn't match hers? Kyle flinched. Ruby stepped back. The air felt thin. I turned to the crowd. For those of you wondering, yes, I'm walking away. From the marriage, from the baby shower, from the lie. I'll still be a father one day, but not like this. Not to someone else's secret. I looked at Ruby one last time. You made me believe I was part of something beautiful. But what you built here isn't a home. It's a stage. Then I stepped down, walked straight past her, past Kyle, past the family and friends frozen in disbelief, and out the front door without looking back. Behind me, someone finally muttered, What the hell just happened? And I thought, they're only just catching up. Our marriage was never perfect, but it was convincing. From the outside, we looked solid. I was the steady architect with quiet charm. Ruby was the warm, socially polished woman everyone adored. Together, we were the kind of couple people tried to copy. They didn't see the cracks under the paint. In our second year, the distance started. Small things at first. Ruby stopped, waiting up for me when I worked late. She said the baby planning had exhausted her. I believed her. Then it was her phone. Always turned face down, notifications silenced, late-night texting she brushed off as Eva being dramatic again. But Eva rarely texted after midnight. One night I came home early from a canceled client dinner and heard laughter in the kitchen. Ruby was leaning against the counter, whispering into her phone. The smile she gave the screen wasn't the one she gave me anymore. I stood in the hallway and just watched. When she noticed me, she jumped like I'd caught her stealing. She said, It's just Kyle. He was telling me about his promotion. Kyle. My old college friend turned occasional drinking buddy. He was always around. At first I thought he was being helpful, checking on Ruby when I was swamped, dropping by with her favorite coffee, offering to help with the stroller instructions. Now I see it. That subtle invasion. The way he'd stand a little too close. The jokes only they understood. How Ruby laughed harder at his stories than mine. Still, I said nothing. Because once you start questioning your wife, everything else starts to rot. Then came the night I couldn't ignore. It was raining. I had gone to Eva's place to deliver some architectural sketches for her new art gallery. We stood by the window drinking tea when she said, without warning, I saw Ruby 2 nights ago. I blinked. Okay. She was leaving Kyle's building, alone, past midnight. Wearing a trench coat and carrying her heels. I stared at her. Are you sure? I'm not trying to start anything. But if it were me, I'd want to know. I wanted to scream, to defend Ruby, to say she would never. But Ava wasn't the type to lie. She never liked drama. She didn't even like Kyle. That night, I went home and lay next to Ruby for hours, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me like nothing was wrong. I started noticing more. Her sudden interest in yoga, specifically the studio next to Kyle's gym. The way she flinched when I asked who she was texting. The way she avoided eye contact when we talked about baby names. Then came the baby shower planning. She was obsessively detailed, picking out every flower, ribbon, gift bag. It felt like overcompensation, like she was trying to bury something under layers of celebration. Still, I said nothing, until I couldn't anymore. I quietly collected samples, her toothbrush, a used napkin from a dinner plate. I sent them in with the test. The day the results came, I sat in the car outside the lab for almost an hour. I didn't open the envelope right away, just held it. My palms were soaked. My mind screamed, "Don't look," but my heart already knew. When I finally read it, the words were cold and clinical. Probability of paternity, 0%. I read it 10 times. The letters never changed. I went home and found Ruby laughing on the phone, probably with Kyle. I kissed her on the cheek like I hadn't just had my world amputated. For 2 days, I said nothing. I just watched her, really watched her. The woman I married. The woman who once told me she'd never hurt someone the way her father hurt her mother, and then came the baby shower. I thought I'd freeze, that I'd fumble, that I'd break down before I could finish a sentence. But standing there, looking at her, I didn't feel sadness. I felt clarity. I wasn't losing a child. I was losing a lie I'd been clinging to, and that's when I knew what I had to do. Not for revenge, not to humiliate her, but to stop being the man who swallowed poison just to keep the peace. I thought walking out would feel like freedom. It didn't. It felt like drowning in silence. The front door closed behind me, but the noise inside still rang in my ears. Gasps, whispers, Ruby's panicked voice trying to reach me. I kept walking. Down the driveway, past the balloon arch, across, the gravel until I reached my car. I sat in the driver's seat, both hands on the wheel, eyes fixed on the windshield, not moving. The engine stayed off. The key never turned. My phone buzzed once, then again, then 10 times more. I didn't check. I already knew whose name I'd see flashing on the screen. It wasn't that I didn't love Ruby anymore. That was the cruelest part. I still did. That's what made it burn. If I hated her, I could walk away clean, but I didn't. I loved her even now, even after the test, even after the betrayal, and I hated myself for it. My chest ached in a way I couldn't name. It wasn't heartbreak, it wasn't rage, it was a mess of all of it, like grief for a future that was never really mine. A knock hit the window. I flinched. It was Eva. Her expression was unreadable, equal parts worry and quiet relief. I rolled the window down. She didn't say anything at first, just crouched beside the car. "You okay?" she asked eventually. I laughed dryly. "You already know I'm not." "You did what had to be done." "Did I?" I said. "Or did I just destroy everything?" "I thought I built—" Eva leaned her arms on the window's edge. "Peter, she made that choice the second she let someone else into your marriage. You didn't destroy it. You just stopped pretending it wasn't broken." I closed my eyes. My throat was tight. The image of Ruby standing in that hall, holding her stomach, eyes wide and shimmering with tears, was stuck in my brain like a photograph I couldn't rip up. "She was going to name the baby after my father," I muttered. Eva's mouth parted, slightly. "Peter. I painted that nursery myself. I spent nights researching cribs and debating stroller brands. I actually dreamed about the kid. That first laugh, teaching them to ride a bike, first steps, birthday parties, all of it. My voice cracked. I didn't care. It was real to me, Ava. Every part of it." She reached through the window and placed her hand over mine. It was the first human contact I'd felt since the toast. I didn't realize how badly I needed it until then. "She doesn't deserve you," Eva said, "but I get it. It doesn't make it easier to walk away. It never does." I nodded slowly, words failing. My phone buzzed again. I finally looked. "Ruby. Please come back. We need to talk." "Ruby. It's not what you think. It was a mistake." "Ruby. Peter, I love you. Please. Please." The last message came with a photo. It was the ultrasound, the one I'd framed for her and put on her nightstand. She'd taken it out and written 3 words across the bottom in red lipstick. Come. Home, please. I handed Eva the phone. You think I should go? She read the messages, then passed it back. I think if you go now, you'll forgive her. She was right. And that terrified me more than anything, because forgiving Ruby wouldn't erase the lie. It wouldn't make the child mine. It wouldn't undo the night she spent with someone else. It would just delay the collapse. Again. I started the car but didn't drive. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. I thought I was going to be a father, I said quietly. And someday, Eva replied, you still will, just not today. And not like this. A single tear slid down my cheek before I could stop it. I wiped it with the back of my hand, ashamed. But Eva didn't flinch. She just stayed there, holding space like a lighthouse in the fog. I finally put the car in gear, drove aimlessly for hours, streets blurred, faces passed. Somewhere between downtown and the empty highway, I pulled over and parked again. The sky was dark now. My phone was at 3%. Ruby's messages had stopped. Maybe she was done begging, or maybe she was waiting for the silence to speak louder than any reply. I sat on the hood of the car and stared at the stars, trying to remember who I was before all this. Before the lies. Before the nursery. Before Kyle. The answer didn't come. But one thing did. I didn't want to go back to a lie just because I missed the version of her that had never existed. It was nearly midnight when I heard the knock. 3 soft taps, like whoever stood outside wasn't sure they deserved to be heard. I opened the door slowly, expecting Eva, maybe even Kyle trying to play damage control. But it was Ruby. She was soaked. The rain had started maybe 20 minutes earlier, and she'd made no attempt to cover herself. Her dress clung to her skin. Her eyes were swollen, either from tears or the storm. I didn't know where else to go, she whispered. I didn't say anything. I didn't move. I wasn't sure if I wanted to slam the door or pull her into my arms. Peter, she said, stepping forward, her voice trembling. I know you hate me, but you need to hear something. Please. I let her in. She didn't look like the polished version of herself anymore. No makeup, no armor, just Ruby, shattered. She stood in the middle of my living room, dripping on the rug. It wasn't Kyle, she said suddenly. He's not the father. My heart didn't know whether to lurch or go numb. What? Her lip quivered. He was just a distraction, someone who reminded me of someone else. I thought you'd stopped seeing me. I thought I was just the wife you came home to out of obligation. And I was lonely. I made mistakes, but not that one. Then who? I asked, voice cracking. Who is the father, Ruby? She didn't speak. Say it, I demanded. You came all the way here in the rain. You broke every piece of me in front of everyone I love. You owe me the truth. She swallowed. Her eyes locked onto mine. It's Eva's fiancé. The room tilted. I took a step back. What did you just say? Ruby looked like she was about to collapse. It was one time. I was drunk. He was drunk. It meant nothing. I didn't even know I was pregnant until weeks later. And by then, I couldn't undo it. I stared at her, but all I could hear was blood rushing in my ears. Eva, the only person who had defended me, who had pushed me toward the truth, and Ruby had betrayed her too. You told her it was Kyle. Ruby nodded, sobbing. I couldn't tell her the real truth. I thought I could live with the guilt, but now everything's ruined anyway. And Peter, I think he knows. I think Eva's fiancé knows he's the father. I sat down hard on the arm of the couch, trying to breathe, trying to keep my sanity from slipping off the ledge. So you let me stand in front of our friends and family, I said slowly, thinking the man who betrayed me was Kyle, while the man who actually fathered your child was sitting beside Eva, She nodded, trembling. I thought it would die with me, but I couldn't live with it anymore. Something inside me broke, not with rage, with something colder, quieter. You need to leave, I said. Right now. She stepped forward, reaching for me. Please, Peter. I stepped back. You. Don't get to say my name like it still means something. Not anymore. Her shoulders crumpled, and for the first time, she said nothing. She turned and walked out, leaving water and silence behind her. And now I had another truth to face, one even Eva didn't know. The betrayal was bigger than Ruby, and the fallout had only just begun. I didn't sleep. Not for a second. At sunrise, I was already outside Eva's apartment, parked on the street in a jacket I hadn't bothered to zip. I wasn't there to speculate. I wasn't there to guess. I was there for the truth. By 7:15 a.m., the door opened. He walked out. With a gym bag slung over one shoulder and keys in hand, Michael, Ava's fiancé, the one who had smiled at me last week while offering to help install a baby car seat in my SUV, the one who clinked glasses at the baby shower and toasted to growing families. He didn't see me until I stepped in front of his car. His face changed instantly, from mild annoyance to alarm. Peter! What the hell, man? I motioned for him to roll down the window. He hesitated, then did. What's going on? I know, I said quietly. He blinked. Know what? Don't play stupid. My jaw was locked. Ruby told me everything, last night, about you, about the baby. He froze. His knuckles whitened around the wheel. She told you that you slept with her, that the baby might be yours, that you've known for a while and stayed quiet while Eva stood by me. Michael didn't deny it, didn't bother. Instead, he sighed and leaned back in the driver's seat like the weight of all his secrets had finally become too heavy. Dor was one time, he said. She came to my place after some party, said she was fighting with you, said she didn't want to go home. We drank. I didn't think it would go that far. But it did. He nodded. Yeah, it did. And you never thought to tell Eva? She'd never forgive me, he said. I was going to come clean after the wedding, but then Ruby said she'd handle it, that it wasn't mine, that she'd lied just to hurt you. I wanted to believe her. Did you sleep better telling yourself that? I asked. While Eva defended both of you? His face twitched. You think I don't feel guilty? You think I don't know what I ruined? I laughed, bitter. You don't even know the half of it. I was ready to raise that kid. I was ready to change my life. For something that never even belonged to me. I'm sorry, he said. I really am. I took a slow breath. Then you need to tell her. Ava deserves the truth. And she deserves to hear it from you before I do it for you. I will, he said. Tonight. Not tonight, I replied. Now. His shoulders dropped. She's probably still asleep. I don't care. She stood by me when no one else did. You don't get to choose convenience after what you've done. 10 minutes later, I stood in Eva's apartment living room while Michael confessed. She sat on the couch in silence, a mug of untouched tea in her hands, her face still. Her breath barely moved. The clock ticked loud in the silence. Say something, Michael finally whispered. Eva didn't look at him. You slept with her. I didn't mean... You slept with her. Her voice was calm, scarier than if she had screamed. She looked up, eyes wet but cold. And you stood by me for months, watched me console Peter, help him prepare, for a baby that wasn't his. You let me tell him the truth about Kyle while you stayed quiet. Michael's lip quivered. I didn't know what to do. You don't get to say that, she snapped. Not after letting someone else take all the damage. He moved toward her. Eva. She stood. Leave. He hesitated. Get out. He grabbed his keys and stormed past me without a word. The door slammed. Eva stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed tightly over her chest, shaking. I walked over, slow. I didn't want you to find out this way, She looked up at me, then away. How long did you know? Last night. Ruby came to my place, said she couldn't lie anymore. Ava laughed dryly. She lied to everyone for months and suddenly decided to confess?
She said guilt ate her up. Ruby doesn't feel guilt, Eva muttered. She feels exposure. That's not the same thing. We sat in silence. I wanted to hold her, but I didn't deserve to reach for her right now. Finally, she turned to me. What are you going to do? I'm out, I said. Completely.
No more hoping, no more maybes. Ruby and I, whatever we were, we're not anymore. She nodded slowly. Good. But you... I paused. I'm so sorry. For what he did. For what she did. For dragging you into it. She shook her head. You didn't drag me in. I chose to be there for you. And I'm glad I was. I looked down. I just never imagined all of it would fall apart like this. She smiled faintly. You don't realize it, Peter. This isn't everything falling apart. This is everything being revealed. And for the first time in days, something inside me exhaled. 2 weeks passed, the kind of days that feel like they're barely moving, yet somehow everything inside you is shifting all at once. Ruby tried calling. I never picked up. She sent long texts, apologies, explanations, fragments of what she thought were justifications. Some days, she'd sit in her car, outside my apartment for hours. Once, she left a note taped to my door with an ultrasound photo and 3 words scrawled in shaky handwriting. He's still yours. But he wasn't. He never was. Eva stayed quiet, too. After Michael left, she disappeared into her work, shutting herself off like someone patching a hole in their chest with duct tape and deadlines. I understood it. She wasn't just grieving a betrayal. She was grieving the time she gave to someone who never deserved it. We both were. And yet, I wasn't broken. Not anymore. I'd been broken when I thought Ruby loved me. When I thought Kyle was the villain. When I believed the baby growing inside her was the thing that would finally make me whole. But the truth had stripped away all. The illusions. And somehow that honesty gave me strength. The revenge didn't come with fire or chaos. It came with quiet, deliberate precision. I hired a lawyer. Not for custody, not for anything messy, just for paperwork. Ruby would get the divorce papers hand-delivered at her next ultrasound appointment. I timed it exactly. The courier told me she cried in the parking lot for 20 minutes. Then came the fundraiser. Every year, the architectural firm I worked for hosted a major charity gala. Ruby and I had attended it together every year since we married, arm in arm like the perfect power couple. This year, I attended alone, but not really alone. Eva walked in by my side. The room hushed when they saw us. We weren't holding hands. We didn't need to. People noticed without needing to be told. Ruby was there too. She stood frozen near the back entrance, wearing a sleek black gown like nothing had changed. But her eyes were hollow when they met mine. She didn't expect Eva. She didn't expect me to show up smiling, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, surrounded by people who still respected me, who knew somehow that I'd survived the kind of betrayal you don't crawl away from. You rise above it. Later that night, I was asked to give a speech. I stood at the podium, the city skyline glowing behind me. Glasses clinked, cameras flashed. Ruby was still watching. I've learned a lot this year, I said. About building things, not just buildings, but people. Trust, love. It turns out the strongest structures aren't the ones made of concrete or steel. They're the ones built on truth. And once you realize something you built was never real, it's okay to tear it down. Because sometimes, what you rebuild afterward is even better. The applause was warm, genuine. Ruby left before dessert. 2 days later, a friend forwarded me an article. City heiress steps down from philanthropy board following scandal. Apparently, Ruby's lies had cost her more than a marriage. Sponsors pulled out. Donors lost trust. The perfect image she'd spent years curating was unraveling. And fast. And Kyle? Turned out he had been sleeping with someone else entirely. When Ruby confronted him about abandoning her, he reportedly laughed and told her, "You're not even worth the drama anymore." Cold. But true. Michael moved out of Eva's apartment and left the city. No goodbye, no closure. Just vanished. Like the coward he was, Eva and I, we didn't jump into anything. There were no big declarations or dramatic scenes. But we started having coffee again. Long walks, quiet dinners. And one night, while watching a rerun of some mindless crime drama, she leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You know what's crazy? You're the only person I trust now." I kissed the top of her head, not to claim her, not to fill a hole, but because for once it felt like something real, and real was enough, because truth was the thing that nearly killed me, but it was also the thing that saved me. I didn't need Ruby's love. I didn't need the lie of fatherhood to feel complete. I needed freedom from all of it, and I got it. So I started over. The nursery became my new studio. I painted over the walls, tore out the crib, and installed shelves full of architectural models and blueprints. Every morning, I drank coffee in the space that once made me cry, and now made me proud. Some people say closure is a myth, that you never really get over betrayal. But they're wrong. Closure is when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. When you walk into a room and don't wonder who knows the truth. When you wake up and the weight is gone, not because someone apologized, but because you no longer care if they ever do. One night, Eva brought over a single croissant. She broke it in half and handed me the larger piece. "What's this for?" I asked. "For the man who let go," she said. I smiled and took a bite. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't taste regret. Ending. Peter didn't just survive the lie. He outgrew it. And this time, he's building something. That won't crumble. Not again, not ever.